Hello everybody, welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today we're doing a box office preview for this upcoming weekend, which actually sees quite a few new movies coming out, but only one of them seems to be likely to make that much of a splash, possibly even getting into the top 3 films of the weekend, and that, of course, is the much-anticipated Nobody 2. Now, what's most interesting about this movie is, though someone like me and many in our space are very excited for this film, we're really big fans of the first movie, when you actually look at the footprint that the first film had, it really wasn't all that impressive. If you go back to 2021, the film only ended up making $57 million at the global box office. Now, this was back in the midst of COVID, so that could easily be a part of it. It seemed to have had a pretty good VOD run. It could also have had a very good physical media sale run as well. But that is kind of the comparison that we have going on right now, and so that's the reason why, whether or not this film is doing better than that original run, whether it is doing that much better than the original run, I think is going to be a very interesting thing to watch going forward. As someone who is a big fan of the first film, Nobody, obviously it is very much a derivative of John Wick, but I think done in a very clever way. Bob Odenkirk as well is, I think, a very great actor for this performance, and I do think that in many ways the sequel is able to live up to and not try to do too much more than it needs to, and overall is a pretty good film. Though, of course, just like any movie, it is not perfect. It'll be interesting to see whether this film is going to be able to make that much more than what is currently being projected. And so let's go ahead and just talk about these numbers here. So starting off with box office theory, Weapons in its second weekend is expected to drop only 42%. That is a very strong hold for a horror film like this, after a very impressive opening weekend. To drop 42%, making another $25 million. This film is easily on its way to $100+ million at the domestic box office, and as I'd mentioned in previous videos, it's looking like this movie is also likely well on its way to making some decent profit as well. The same cannot necessarily be said for the new Disney film / remake reboot sequel of Freaky Friday, or in this case, Freakier Friday, which is expected to have a pretty steep drop of 56%, steep for the family genre. Right now, we're not seeing MCU level drops here, but usually when it comes to family films, those family films tend to have much stronger holds as the days and as the weeks go by, and that even starts off as early as that second weekend of release. And so the fact that it's dropping 56% is definitely not a good sign. Now, because the budget is not too crazy, that actually could end up being a benefit. We could see this film end up leaking out. We'll have an official word on that on Sunday when we finally have those official numbers. But as of right now, that kind of drop-off is not what you typically want to see, especially for a family film. And that would mean that the number 3 spot is actually expected to be going to Nobody 2 from Universal. Now, what's also interesting about this is the fact that if you look at that number, $9.1 million, is actually right now projected to just barely eke out up against the Fantastic Four. Now, remember, Fantastic Four has had catastrophic drops every single week of its release. It had a 66% drop, rather 67 when adjusted percent drop in its second weekend of release, and then it dropped another 60%, and now it's dropping in the 40s. And so this is definitely not where the film wants to be. And I think that ultimately this is going to still lead to this being one of the biggest flops of the year, even though it is going to be the biggest MCU film of the year. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not Nobody 2 is still actually able to beat out Fantastic Four. If I had to guess, I would say it probably will. I think that Nobody 2 has a little bit more momentum and interest going for it than anything else. But of course, anything can happen. The Bad Guys 2 dropping 39%. Naked Gun, another 36%. Superman, James Gunn's Superman, 36%. So still having those pretty decent holds there. Now, the thing that could actually end up hurting Superman is, remember how there were those rumors that Superman was going on VOD, and then a bunch of the gun nuts said, like, oh no, that hasn't been confirmed, and blah, 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 blah. And like, I think even Gunn and even people associated said that's not true. And now apparently it actually is true, or it was like off by a day or a week or something. It's just kind of crazy. But again, VOD, it being available for VOD either today or very, very soon, within the next week at the very least, that I think is going to definitely have an impact on these numbers. And that also to me tells me that, hey, if the studio is putting this film out just 30 days from its initial release, that tells me they don't have a lot of confidence in the theatrical power of the film. And I think honestly that just confirms what I and many others have been saying, which is that, yeah, this film overall, it's not doing terribly. In fact, domestically it's having a pretty good run, but because of how bad those international numbers were, this movie is just, at least at this point in time, not currently profitable, and that's assuming the budget and the marketing that is a typical response, right? That's the marketing, or sorry, that's the budget that they're telling us the movie actually cost, even though I think that they are lowballing that number. And it's also assuming a budget that's actually lower than what many others are projecting the budget for the marketing to actually be. So again, going on a VOD like that, I think, is them kind of signaling, yeah, we need a bit of more money here before we actually can really say that this film is a financial success for us. And I do think, and I've been saying this now for weeks, they're going to get that in VOD sales. They're going to get that in their physical media sales, right? There are some hardcore, passionate fans. There's regular, normal, everyday fans, and then, of course, there are those gun nuts. And guess what? They are going to support this film post-theatrical. The point, though, is theatrically, as at least right now, this film has not yet made its money back, whether you like that or not. And then Jurassic World Rebirth dropping another 30% here. Going to be interesting battle between these two films. Both are lagging out to probably be able to reach $350 million at the very least. Since Superman is on VOD, we'll see if that has any more impact on anything else. And Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that's right, the 1990 live-action version is actually getting a Fathom event, and so that's actually going to creep into this discussion as well. And then F1 dropping another 31%, but this one's essentially done with its box office run. Going over to Box Office Pro, let's see what their top three is looking like. So first, they actually do have Weapons, 22 to 28 million, so another strong hold is projected by that. Freakier Friday, 14 to 18 million. And then they also have Nobody 2 in the number 3 spot, making $7 to $10 million. Now, the original film did end up opening to around $6.8 million back in 2021. So we would say probably in equivalency for inflation, probably closer to 7, maybe even as high as $8 million, depending on the metric that you're looking at here. And so based on these early projections, it's looking like this is going to have a better opening. And that's typically what you want to see. You want to see your films, especially when you have your franchise films, you want to see them do better over time. This happened with John Wick, right? John Wick grew its audience with every single release, even up into John Wick Chapter 4, which had the smallest growth as far as percentage was concerned, but ended up, still making the most amount in the entire history of the franchise. Now, of course, Ballerina was a big fall off from that, but there's not really a surprise there. Lastly, going over the box office report, we have Weapons again on the number 1 spot, 27.5, dropping only 37%. It'll be interesting to see what that week 2 drop off is. It's looking like it's going to be strong though, no matter what. As I've made very clear, I think the film is decent. I think it's being overrated by a lot of people. That being said, it is still very good in many respects, and a lot of people are still really enjoying it. And hey, turns out people are actually going to see it. So this film is a big win for Warner Brothers and New Line. Freakier Friday, as I mentioned, from Disney, dropping 53% here. Again, if it's dropping in that 50+% range for a family release, for a family film, that is definitely not the kind of thing that you want to see going forward. We'll look at the chart in a second, though, to see exactly where it is financially speaking. Nobody to $9.3 million, about the same, but we have with Box Office Theory. Fantastic Four would then be after that at $8.5 million, another 46% drop. Again, I think Fantastic Four is just donezo. I think that this film is just an absolute catastrophe for Disney. This is something that they needed to be a home run, and this thing is like you're at it first almost, right? It's like if maybe we have the comparison to be that the other two MCU films this year are you're out at first, right? This might be you just barely beat the bag, but you're still only there at a single, and then you end up getting caught trying to steal second. Like that's the kind of mentality where it's just a loss in almost every single way when it comes to the release of this movie. Now, speaking of that, there are a bunch of other, as I mentioned, films releasing this weekend. So Americana is a film that's coming out this weekend from Lionsgate. This is actually a Sydney Sweeney movie. Now, this is a 2023 Sydney Sweeney movie. It actually came out in South by Southwest in 2023, finally got picked up by Lionsgate, and is now being put in theaters. So it'll be interesting to see if, because of all the stuff going on with the Sydney Sweeney controversy, whether this film's actually able to, sorry, my dog Willow is right next to me wanting some pets, whether this is actually going to maybe make this film do better than anyone could have anticipated. But as you you saw, it was not really on any of those charts, right? It's a wide release, but it's not expected to do a whole lot. So it'll be interesting to see exactly, where that movie ends up doing. There's also a new film from Eli Roth. So Eli Roth Presents Jimmy and Stiggs. So kind of supposed to be like a drug horror thing from Iconic Releasing. So again, a kind of an independent distribution company there. So again, will this make a splash at the box office? No one's been mentioning that in their charting either. You also have an A24 release. This is actually a Spike. Was it Spike Lee? Yeah, another Spike Lee joint, as he oftentimes says. So another Spike Lee film. And this is actually starring Denzel Washington. So once again, another film coming out this weekend with a wide release, and yet it's not really tracking in the charting. So a bunch of films coming out. It'll be interesting to see whether any of them are any good. Again, I have seen Nobody 2, and I can say that for the most part I enjoyed it, but I will be honest. I had to go to a late showing last night, and this is something that I've always had a struggle with. Whenever I go to a late showing at a theater, I have a habit of sometimes falling asleep, even in films that I end up enjoying. So for the first hour, it's only a 90-minute movie. And so for the vast majority, for the first hour of the film that I watched, I was enjoying it. And then all of a sudden, an attendant at the theater was waking me up because I had fallen asleep. And that's more so on me than on the film. But I just wanted to put that out there, that this was not able to at least push me past, right, the norm of going to see later films, at least for me, in general. And so I just wanted to throw that anecdote in there for some laughs. Now, when it comes to the actual budgets and when it comes to actual financial success, Nobody 2 only cost $25 million to make. It's a very low budget in today's market, so it does still need to make around $75 million to break even. If this thing is right now trending higher than the first film, and right now it is, the first film ended at $57 million, that again is a possibility, right? We might be able to see this film get to $75 million. Way too early to tell. We'll see if it does anything internationally, and also just how much better it does than the projections. So a decent start, but definitely not the home run that maybe some people thought. I think some of us might have thought Nobody is a bigger franchise, or is at the very least a bigger IP or a bigger property. But what's interesting is that as much as we love it, as much as a lot of us in the Friday Night Tights space and the online circles really enjoy this movie, just a lot of people have not actually seen it. So again, if you want a good action film with Bob Odenkirk, kind of in the similar vein as a John Wick, but instead of it being like a professional in a professional setting, it's a guy who is a professional, but he's trying to also be normal. If you like that dynamic and you like Bob Odenkirk, I think it's well worth watching for that reason alone. Americana, who knows? Because again, it's a 2023 release. It's got Cindy Sweeney in it. It's got Philip Hauser. Again, I always forget his name. Let me see if I can find it. It should be in the box office pro number. Actually, no, it wouldn't be in the box office. Why would it be in the box office pro numbers? Why would I even think that at this point in time? Let me see if I can actually pull these numbers up, though, for the release schedule. Philip, oh my goodness. This is why I do it live, though, because, again, it helps keep me honest. So, again, you have, of course, Sydney Sweeney in this movie, and you have, let's see, cast and support. Paul Walter Hauser. That's what it is. People in the comment section are like, how dare you? Paul Walter Hauser, who is really funny. I really like him quite a bit. So again, we'll see if this is going to be able to do anything. It's from a director, Tony Toast. Again, who knows here? But hey, Sydney Sweeney, she might be able to sell some tickets. We will, of course, have to wait and see on that. Going back into the chart, though, Weapons cost $38 million, needed to make $114 million to break even. The film is currently at $100 million, so this film I will predict right now, will break even this weekend. Kudos to them. Kudos to the entire team behind the film, because it has done a really great job. Now, some people have said, like, why have I been so harsh on Freakier Friday? It's not that the film is doing terribly. It's just that the film is not doing well enough for its budget. And based off of those second weekend numbers, it's not likely going to cut that much into the numbers here. So I would imagine that when we get to Sunday, I'll probably be able to project that it'll either be a very small financial loss or barely break even. And so again, in a world where VOD sales and Blu-ray sales can sometimes make films like that up, like when you are just getting a bare small loss at the box office or a bare break even, you can usually do pretty well after the fact with those other alternative revenue streams. It's when you have like the $100+ million losses, like for instance, a Fantastic Four, where, okay, you're not really going to make those kinds of losses up just on VOD sales and just on Blu-ray sales or anything like that, right? A little bit of a different situation for a film like Freakier Friday. I think that's probably where that film is going to end up being. As I mentioned with Sketch, all we know is is that Angel Studios bought the distribution rights. We don't know how much they spent on those distribution rights for the film, but based on how it probably didn't cost too much money, this film's probably turning a profit for them in the long run. We have no budget for Americana. Again, it was a 2023 film release picked up by Lionsgate, so again, who knows how much Lionsgate would have paid for the rights for that, but that's going to be the basis for how much money this movie is going to have made for them. And a couple other updates. The Bad Guys 2, still just, again, not doing much of anything. Naked Gun, still probably just a little too weak for any type of financial success. Fantastic Four, still a massive catastrophic flop. And James Gunn's Superman, again, on paper, based on the numbers that they themselves have given us, and even just a much more subdued marketing budget, right? This is not me using that marketing budget that people are running away with here. Still on paper has not made its money back. That is why VOD is coming out so soon. And that to me tells and screams, guess what? If you've been saying, oh, this film's doing amazing in the box office, apparently the studio doesn't agree with you, because they would not have released the film this early unless they were like, we need to make a quick buck. We need to make up that lost revenue. We don't think the theatrical is going to do it. And they need those extra VOD sales, and that to me is what's going on here. But anyway, those are the numbers as they stand. What are y'all's thoughts? Are you going to see any of the new films? There's a plethora of new films this weekend. You'll notice that a couple of them are not even on my chart here because, again, they're wide releases, but they're not even really tracking in any way. So are you going to see Americana? Are you going to go see Jimmy and Stiggs? Are you going to go see Highest to Lowest? Are you going to go see Nobody 2? I think most of y'all probably would go see Nobody 2. I would recommend it. I think it's definitely well worth seeing at the box office and in the theater. I'm going to save my review until I'm able to finally get to at least watch the end of Nobody 2. So be on the lookout for that over on Critic List as well. And since we are at the end of the video, let's actually go ahead and pull up what the current Critic List score is, because sometimes we can get these numbers a little bit early. And again, I like to do things live here on this channel because it does, I think, again, keep me honest. So let's see, Nobody 2. Let's see if there are a lot of reviews yet. There's 5 votes. So far, there's a rad, most excellent, decent, rad, most excellent. So pretty across the board, people are enjoying the film. So I think that is, again, a pretty good indication that, hey, you're going to go watch this film. You're going to have a good time. It's got a really great cast. Christopher Lloyd is in the film. Really, any film with Christopher Lloyd these days, it's like, go see it just to support him. Who knows how much longer that we have him. He's actually playing like a kind of, this hardcore character, which is always fun, right? In more limited capacity because, again, he can only do so much at his age. But yeah, I would say go watch it for him. Bob Odenkirk, also really, really great actor, and a very, very fun movie as well. Let's see if we can get this score up, and let's see if we can, at least get the score public, I should say, and hopefully that you enjoy it. So let me know your thoughts about these things and anything else I mentioned in the comment section down below. If you like this video, make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you also smash the rumble button as well. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful rest of your day. This is the Feast of the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary, so go to Mass, holy day of obligation, holy day of opportunity for anyone who might not be Catholic out there. And remember also, this would be a great opportunity to remind people that I do make rosaries to give away for free. If you go to my website, ombreviews.com, you'll find that there is a form, a rosary request form. Put one request in there, and I will send you a knotted rosary for free anywhere in the world. So check that out. Anyway, blessed Feast of the Assumption. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, God bless. And now for a huge special shout out to all of my Chosen of Valhalla members, starting off first with my people on Patreon, Father Luca Illich and Miss Martin Muses. Check out her YouTube channel by the same name, Miss Martin Muses. Also to my Subscribestar people, Matt317. Check out his Twitch channel by the same name, Matt317. And lastly to my YouTube member, Mr. Roy. shout out to you, good sir. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and video, check out the top link in the video description below where you get access to that. Also, you get access to a plethora of other things. You get your name listed at the end of every live stream and video, like you saw in those names that came up before this video started, and also access to a giveaways channel that I host over on the Discord server where I give away 4Ks, Steelbooks, Blu-rays, all kinds of stuff. So check that out if you're interested in that. Also, I have an exclusive podcast that I hold at least once a month, and it's always a good time, and you get extra bonus content with that also. So if any of that sounds interesting, again, check out that top link in the video description below. You guys are all amazing, and beautiful people. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, God bless.